breaking news out of Washington, the swamp tonight, where Congressman Matt Gaetz, Congressman Jim Jordan, they are now sending a letter to the FBI. They are demanding more answers surrounding the conduct of the former FBI official arrested for his financial ties to this Russian oligarch. And so while the media and the top brass inside the FBI were accusing Donald Trump of being a Russian agent and colluding with Russia, it appears that it was one of the FBI's own who had shady business ties to the Kremlin. Like I've been saying, the time for real transparency, real accountability is long past due, and it is why Jim Jordan is chairing the Judiciary Committee, which is so important, and why subpoena power is that important. Also tonight, Speaker McCarthy has officially rejected the appointments of Russian hoaxsters Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, citing their efforts to needlessly politicize committee work and efforts to undermine U.S. national security. Meanwhile, more classified document drama that is unfolding tonight. Former Vice President Mike Pence says he discovered classified documents in his Indiana home, promptly informed the National Archives. But Barack Obama's office, they declined to answer questions about whether there is a search for any classified records at any of his homes or offices. Here with more on all of this, he is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan. A member of that committee, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, is with us. Chairman, we'll start with you and ask, okay, so in the middle of this Russia hoax, now remember, let's give a timeline here. We know for a fact that the FBI was warned in August by Bruce Orr, don't trust the dirty dossier. He said it was political. Early October 2016, the FBI sends agents over to meet with the author, Christopher Steele, offer him $1 million bounty. He couldn't get the money because he had no proof to corroborate this. By the end of October, it becomes what Andrew McCabe, the deputy FBI director, mentioned was the bulk of information without the dirty dossier, no FISA applications. And yet this guy working on this case was the one actually involved in colluding with the Russians?
Right, Sean. The same FBI that spied on President Trump's campaign, that altered evidence in front of the FISA court, that lied to the FISA court, now has an agent who helped launch the Trump-Russia investigation, who's under indictment for taking money from Russia. And understand, it's not just any agent. This is the special agent in charge of counterintelligence in the New York division. And it's not just any Russian. It's Oleg Deripaska, whose name comes up all the time, who was the guy Christopher Steele was working for. That is the lay of the land here. And that is why Matt and I have sent this letter. We're going to send this letter to get more answers on what was this. This guy worked 20-some years at the FBI, this McGonigal. So we want to know everything that's going on here, because this pattern that we've now seen and the political nature that exists based on what whistleblowers have told us and based on what we have seen has to end.
What are you discovering? What are the whistleblowers saying, Matt Gaetz, and what will the American people likely learn in these hearings?
Well, there's two critical vectors that we're investigating on the Judiciary Committee. First, the extent to which our national security apparatus is corrupted by politics here at home. That's where the whistleblowers have talked about really degrading evidence that would otherwise implicate the Biden family. But this story that is breaking now, that is huge, shows us that there is also a real coercion with foreign cash that comes in and has an impact on our FBI. What we now know is that the head of counterintelligence at the New York field office was turned by the Russians, and this is the very person who helped do the intake on the initial Russia hoax. So now we have to determine when that person was turned, and I'm very concerned that it may have been while he was at the FBI. Even in this indictment, Sean, details show he was setting up business organizations in New Jersey that later accepted corrupt cash from Russians while he was leading counterintelligence efforts at the New York field office. There could be real dangers here to national security. That's why Mr. Jordan and I want to know if there are legislative proposals or oversight endeavors we have to engage in to figure out how deep this rot goes.
All right, Jim Jordan, you and Matt Gaetz on the Judiciary Committee, you will be asking the question, has the FBI in this country been politicized? Has the Department of Justice been weaponized? In tandem, you have Jimmy Comer's oversight committee investigating the Biden family syndicate and whether or not Joe, in fact, lied when he said he never had a discussion with Hunter or any family member about foreign business dealings. We already know the answer to that question. We know it was a big lie. The question is, where will the money take us in all of this? What do the American people need to know about what's coming? Who are these whistleblowers? What will we learn from them? What are we finding out about the Biden family and how they've been protected in this double standard that seems to exist in our system of justice?
First of all, I don't think there's a question of whether the highest levels of the FBI are now functioning in a political fashion. I think that's obvious, and we know that from the whistleblowers who've come and talked to us. We want to make these whistleblowers, we want to get them public as quickly as they're willing to do it. I think many of them are because, as I said the other day, Sean, so many of them have been retaliated against. I mean, we've had several of them who've been suspended, had their security clearance revoked, which after they've come and talked to our committee staff. So we expect to hear from them. We expect them to sit for depositions. Actually met one of them and talked with one who's already went public last week in Florida. So we expect that to happen. That's where we're going to start this investigation. And we'll also hear from people who've been targeted, like the parents who were targeted via the apparatus that Merrick Garland put in place with his memo. We're going to talk to those people as well.
All right, so the issue, I have my sources. They've informed me what I suspected. What I actually said on the radio today is I think Mike Pence was watching everything with the Biden top secret documents, et cetera, et cetera. He initiated his own investigation just to double check. He immediately called the FBI when they found a couple of documents, Matt Gaetz, and handed them over and worked with the officials. But that's not the issue to me. The issue is, how was Hillary Clinton treated? She had all of those servers, then she had 33,000 deleted emails with BleachBit. She had Blackberries and iPhones destroyed with hammers. She had SIM cards removed. And now we got the double standard. Why was Mar-a-Lago raided, and why wasn't any of Joe Biden's residences raided? Why the double standard? Or is that a double standard?
Well, it's very clear that Hillary Clinton got off because Jeff Sessions was a terrible attorney general. I'm not really here for all of the document drama. I think it's far more significant that while Eric Swalwell was saying that he had evidence that Donald Trump was a Russian agent, there were actually people in the FBI that turned out later to be Russian agents. That is just so crazy to me that that would occur in our country. As for the documents, I mean, hey, by the end of this thing, Sean, the only person that might be able to run for president is like Larry Hogan or something. I think that having people in the national security apparatus trying to shape the presidential field is probably not a good thing, regardless of your political persuasion. I don't think that Mike Pence did anything wrong here, and Donald Trump made that point as well.
Sean, remember when Adam Schiff said he has more than circumstantial evidence that there's Russian collusion? I think we've found it. It was McGonigal working with the FBI, working with the Russians, for goodness sake.
Well, you're forgetting you forgot the prank call that Adam Schiff took. And when the guy had, in a Russian accent, said, we have compromising material on Donald Trump. What's the nature of the compromise? Pictures of naked Trump. Has Vladimir seen those pictures? Of course, but Vladimir seen. Adam Schiff was colluding with somebody that he thought was a Russian to benefit the Democrats. Anyway, he doesn't belong on the committee. Neither does Swalwell. Good job by Kevin McCarthy. Last question. Will you come to an agreement on the debt ceiling issue? Will all 222 Republicans unite? Matt Gaetz, yes or no?
I think we will. I think we should fight for work requirements on a lot of these social welfare programs that are driving our national debt. And it is not appropriate for Joe Biden to say he refuses to negotiate with the people's house that the people gave to the Republican Party. We're going to negotiate tough, and I think that we should get those spending cuts.
Jim, will it happen? The Democrats are betting that all 222 Republicans won't stay together. Do you think they will?
Yeah, they just spent $1.7 trillion, and we all voted against it. Now they're saying, oh, we don't want to talk to you guys, even though you have the majority. Where does that fit in? Of course we're going to stick together and fight these guys.
All right. Thank you both.